War and unrest appeal to me more than good order. Brutality is respected. The people need wholesome fear. They want to fear someone. They want someone to frighten them and make them shudderingly submissive. Ernst Röhm was well acquainted with fear. A World War I veteran, he joined the German Workers' Party before Hitler came along. He remained in the army after the war and made connections with Freikorps. He recruited Freikorps into the Nazi Party, using them to guard Nazi conferences, attack communist meetings, and roam the streets terrorizing Jews. These men would be known as the Sturmabteilung, the Stormtroopers, or the SA. They had a reputation of being dangerous and undisciplined, which served Nazi purposes just fine. But the Nazis also recruited more respectable people. Ernst Hofsnagel was a Harvard graduate who became Hitler's close friend. His family donated to the Nazis and even opened their home to Nazi meetings. Hermann Göring was a pilot during the war from a respectable family, and would end up as one of Hitler's most trusted confidants. And then there was the composer Richard Wagner, Germany's most famous musician. A fervent nationalist, his music celebrated German culture. He saw in Hitler a man who could make Germany great again. With these connections, Hitler met many important German business leaders, many of whom became regular donors to the Nazi Party. Hitler's star was on the rise, but the Weimar Republic was falling. By 1923, Germany fell behind the payments they owed France, the ones mandated by the Treaty of Versailles. In response, France moved troops into the Ruhr Valley, Germany's big industrial center, to extract the money Germany owed from there. Germans were outraged. The German workers in the Ruhr Valley went on strike. Weimar leaders complained that the Treaty of Versailles wasn't an agreement, but a diktat, a dictated peace. The German right wing howled the loudest. This would never have happened if the November criminals didn't stab the country in the back. To make matters worse, the Weimar government printed up more money to make up for the loss of the Ruhr. The more money they printed, the less it was worth. Prices went up until everyday household goods were unaffordable for working people. This was probably a strategy by the government to make the currency so worthless that they wouldn't have to pay France. It might have been a shrewd strategy, but it played right into Hitler's hands. By this point, Hitler was in contact with other right-wing groups in Bavaria. In September 1923, these groups came together for a rally in the city of Nuremberg for a so-called German Day. It was here that Hitler met Erich Ludendorff, the hero of World War I and leader of the Kampf Putsch 3 years earlier. The rally made one thing clear. Right-wing Germans were ready for action. They pressed Hitler and Ludendorff to do something, like get rid of the Weimar Republic, stop printing money, and drive France out of the Ruhr. With the Nazis so powerful and the Weimar Republic so weak, Hitler saw his chance to strike. The Weimar government knew something was coming, and if it were to come, it would come out of Bavaria, the hub of German right-wing activity. Gustav von Kahr was still in control of Bavaria. When the government ordered him to fire the commander of the army in Munich, Otto von Lossow, he also refused. Kahr, Lossow, and the head of Bavaria's police, Hans von Seisser, essentially ruled Bavaria as if it were their own country. They would not take orders from the Weimar government in Berlin. The three men, known as the Triumvirate, were planning to overthrow the Weimar Republic. But so was Hitler, and he wanted to do it first. On November 8, 1923, the three men led a gathering of 3,000 people at a Munich beer hall. Beer halls were popular meeting places for political groups. As soon as Kahr got up to speak to the crowd, Hitler showed up with the SA, stormed the beer hall, fired a shot into the air, and announced that the revolution had begun. He told the crowd that the SA had taken over Munich. A lie. We're about to take over the entire state of Bavaria. Also a lie. And then we're going to march on Berlin to get rid of the Weimar Republic, which was their goal. Hitler forced the three men to meet with him in a back room away from the crowd. He tried to convince them to support his revolution. They refused. He threatened to shoot them. They still refused. Frustrated, Hitler went back to speak to the crowd, who were being held hostage by the SA. The crowd wasn't happy and let him know it. He told them that he wanted to, quote, get rid of the Berlin Jew government and the November criminals, then install himself and Ludendorff as leaders. By this point, Ludendorff had already walked through the door. He was already in on Hitler's plan, although he assumed he would become the leader. Hitler's speech and Ludendorff's support convinced the crowd to support his revolution. It also convinced the triumvirate. It looked like everyone was ready to go. Hitler then got news that his SA had exchanged gunfire with German troops. He rushed out of the beer hall to discover that the SA had not taken any part of the city. Where was his revolution? To make matters worse, the triumvirate quietly snuck out of the beer hall and disappeared. When they reappeared, they denounced Hitler and said they wanted nothing to do with him. Ludendorff offered to stand next to Hitler and to lead the SA in a march down the streets of Munich together. He told Hitler troops would never fire on him, Germany's greatest war hero. He was wrong. When they reached the center of Munich, troops did fire on them. Hitler hit the ground immediately, then ran away as his comrades caught bullets. Ludendorff stood tall throughout it all and was arrested. Hitler was arrested 2 days later. This fiasco, known as the Beer Hall Putsch, was Hitler's greatest embarrassment. His revolution failed. 15 Nazis died, and he was proven a coward. Authorities took him to Landsberg prison, where Kurt Eisner's killer was cleared out of his cell to make room for him. This should have been the end of Hitler. Not only did he embarrass himself, he was facing a hefty jail sentence. Trying to overthrow the government is a serious crime. What kind of government wouldn't seriously punish someone who tried to do that? At the trial, the judge, who was sympathetic to the Nazi cause, let Hitler speak without interruption. He took responsibility for what happened, but argued that he did it for Germany. He was sentenced to 5 years, with chance for parole after 6 months. This was as light a sentence as he could have received. What should have been the end of Hitler would be just the beginning. Germany would soon learn the consequences of letting him off so lightly for his crimes.